How's it going, everybody? Thank you for finding this video. I'm going to do my very best to explain this very complicated topic very simply so that you can teach it to a child. Um, I stand by the title of this video, and I just wanted you all to know a couple things. Number one, if you got this through my website, then thank you for finding it. Um, Let me just reiterate the fact that I was a 32nd degree Mason and I left. I did this presentation for them twice. The first time it caused the chaplain of the lodge to freak out for 5 hours. And then the second time I did it for the Grand Lodge in New York City. Now, it was during COVID, so of course I couldn't go in. It was done like I'm doing right now. I did it live like this. And what happened was I found out down the road that it had been taken down. It had been completely taken down. Now, why would they do that? Well, they told me, and I have a text message from my chaplain, that it was too revealing of the signs, and it was also, they said it was too revealing of the signs, and it was too, how did they word it? Risky for the fraternity's reputation. Now, those are direct quotes. So I left there. It also got me knocked off YouTube 11 months ago. I just recently got my YouTube back, and I want to put it back on. The other thing that it did was I did this presentation twice for TikTok. The first time it had 2,800 views within the first 6 minutes. Got taken down. The second time I did it for TikTok. It got taken down again for a guy that had like 74,000 people. So now that I have my YouTube channel back, of course I'm going to throw this out there. But without further ado, I just wanted to let you guys know that everything I just said is facts, can be verified. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the Bible, and then I'm going to take you through 6,000 years of our history. And I'm going to show you guys the conclusion that I've come to. It's very important. So we're going to add this to the stage. Now, let's start. So before I even begin, I'm going to explain to you what you're about to see, because the way that I teach this is so simple that you're going to be able to pick it out yourself. But then you're going to go, why? What's the purpose of all this? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm going to explain it to you first, and then I'll read this to you again later after we've gone a little bit and you've been able to see this. So without further ado, I just wanted to give a little quick intro. So thank you to everybody who's here. I'm streaming this live. This is going to be on my website, and it's going to be on my Rumble, my YouTube. And to be perfectly honest, this is a one-stop video where I'm going to teach you the basics, and then I'm going to show you how easy this stuff is. So what is the point of this? Well, we take for granted that we have calendars, clocks, watches, and weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. That's the story of Joseph and the Pharaoh, right? They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bow and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. The ancients would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, and so on and so forth. Eventually, they learned how to write, and they wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism, which is the Old Testament, then to Christianity, which is the New Testament, written by Jews, by the way, in Greek, then to the Quran, the Book of Mormon. I mean, it's in everything. It's in the Gnostic text. It's in the Ethiopian Bible, the Colburn Bible. the Apocrypha. It's in everything. So I'm going to show you that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this lovely little presentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw all over it because I'm going to show you guys how this works. So I'm going to read you this quote many times. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. That's John Dominic Crossan. So I need to show you guys two things about the zodiac. First and foremost, if we're talking about Aries, the ram, Aries is right here. There are patterns that you can make. For example, Aries connecting signs, as they're called, would be Taurus and Pisces. The other pattern that will be made is what is known as the cross sign or the opposing sign. Now, I show you these patterns specifically because in these decodings that I do, you're going to see that it makes nothing but these patterns. So it's not going to go from, let's say, Cancer to Scorpio because there's no pattern that goes there. It's always going to be the connecting signs or the opposing signs. The other thing I want to show you is that these lines right here, they don't exist. Like I'm looking at the sky right now through my window and I'm not seeing the dividing lines. What these dividing lines are is it's a visual representation of something that is known as a cusp or a handover date. What it is the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign. So it's a 6-day period where the energies blend into each other. And that's important in these stories that I'm going to show you because, for example, if we're talking about Aries here, that's the ram. You can only talk about the ram. Taurus is the bull. You can only talk about the bull. But if you're at the cusp, as it's called right here in the story, you're allowed to talk about the ram or the bull. So that's just the only thing that I'm going to prep you guys with. So there's questions you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. How he walked on water. How he turned water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas. Why was he dead for 3 days, and why is his birthday on December 25th? All that is astrology. Now, this last part right here, I'm going to get a lot of pushback from some Christians that are going to say, and I've heard all of them. I've heard all the pushbacks on it. He was born on September 11th. He was born during the Feast of the Tabernacles. He was born at the end of Passover. And what I'm telling you is this December 25th day is the story that you guys get your biblical stories from. That's where you draw it from. So I'm well aware that there's plenty of other dates that he could have been born at, but this December 25th is the agreed upon date for the birth of Christ. As far as this goes, it's also the birth of Mithra, of Horus, of Adonis, of all of them. And there's a reason for that. We'll get to that. Now, Genesis 1:14 says, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day, that's the sun, from the night, that's the moon. Let them be signs, that's the zodiac, to mark the seasons, days, and years. Again, the Farmer's Almanac that I mentioned before, but we're going to make a case for that, guys. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, or an era, or an eon, or a sign, or a mansion. There's many different metaphors for it. But what they refer to is each zodiac sign, the individual zodiac sign. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you guys the 12 signs in a way that you guys haven't heard. If you haven't heard this, me talk about this yet, I'm going to explain to you the 12 signs and the story behind it. Then I'm going to give you key words for each sign that you're going to agree, I hope, that makes sense for the sign. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go searching for them. So the sign I start with, the first one I start with is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. So Aquarius is the man, whereas Virgo is the woman. Now, technically, Aries begins the year. But I start with Aquarius because Aquarius and Pisces, the first 2 signs that I start with, both reflect water, and I'm going to get into that. Now, the story of Aquarius goes to the story of Zeus and the young boy. Now, what is the story of Zeus and the young boy? Well, this is one of the early iterations of the story of Aquarius. There's a few. But the main one, Zeus and the young boy. So Zeus saw a blonde boy on Earth that he wanted on Mount Olympus with him, or as he wanted him. And the boy's father wouldn't let him go, so Zeus ends up bargaining with the boy's father. Long story short, he bargains with him, and the boy's allowed to go up. While he's up, just like in this picture on the right, he is serving everybody out of this water pitcher something called ambrosia, which was the nectar for the gods. Incidentally, Mount Olympus, guys, is a real place on Earth. You can Google it. It's a real place on Earth. And the funny thing is that none of the Greeks ever thought to go up there to see if the gods were doing anything up there. They just assumed. Anyway, so he's feeding them ambrosia day in and day out, and eventually he just gets sick of his monotonous life. So what he does is he goes to the edge, and he pours the water pitcher out, just like in this picture. Now the water, or the ambrosia, floods the earth, and that's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now Zeus, who's usually a malevolent, just kind of unpredictable, sexually deviant, I mean, he's just a mess of a god, was going to punish him, because he's also an angry god too. And he was going to punish him, but which was rare for Zeus, in a moment of self-reflection, he thinks to himself, he's like, I really shouldn't have brought this young boy up here. He had a life, he had family, 14-year-old kids think about friends and their parents and this and that. So what he does is, instead of punishing him, what he does is he immortalizes him as the picture Aquarius that we are familiar with right here on the right. So the key words for Aquarius would be man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this picture is literally how you baptize someone. You just put a body under it. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher in it. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. Water bodies. Now, Aquarius in astrology is an air sign. It's not a water sign. Pisces, the mutable water sign, is a water sign. So why is Aquarius water? Because there's liquid in the picture like this, and they used it to ingrain the idea of body fluids and stuff. Whereas Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water, and it's a mutable water sign too. Stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. It's the same thing. So whether you're talking about Aquarius water or Pisces water depends on the way that they word scripture, or they word the sentence, which I promise you I will show you. Now, Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover. There's 3 different kinds of Passover that occur during Aries. The first and the oldest is the astrological Passover, which is when the sun on March 21st, the spring equinox, what it does is it passes over from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. Now summer's coming back. The days are getting longer. Spring comes around. The Jewish Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the houses, and anyone that doesn't have the lamb or the ram's blood, why? Smeared on their doorpost. Well, why the ram? Well, because the Jews are the people of Aries. See, the Egyptians are the people of the age of Taurus, the bull, whereas Jews are the people of Aries, the ram, which is why they blow the ram's horn during the high holidays, if you haven't heard this before. Now, in Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it becomes the resurrection of God's Son. Now, you guys have seen Zeitgeist, right? I'm assuming you've seen Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist didn't go far enough. This is Zeitgeist on steroids. The idea that God's Son, S-O-N versus S-U-N, I know they're homonyms, or they're homophones, but it's irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, the case I'm going to make is going to show it to you. So it's the resurrection of God's Son. And honestly, that's Easter. And Easter is also astrology. Why? Well, first you have to have March 21st. That's the spring equinox. Then after the spring equinox, you have to have a full moon. And then after the full moon, well, you have the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the spring equinox. And that's how you figure out when Easter is every single year. It's astrology. They don't tell you this, but it is. Now, Taurus is the bull, and it's as above, so below. When you look at the sky and you see Taurus, You have to put the plow on the bull. You see the bull, you put the plow on the bull. Now, again, guys, we have John Deere equipment that does this right now. We have all sorts of tilling equipment and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, thousands of years ago, they used the bull to till the land. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra, which I will get back to. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow is the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Now, Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy. Remember those names, guys. Keep them in the back of your head because they're going to come up later. Whose sister was Helen of Troy? It's the story of Achilles. This is another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, that's Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab. The crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, that's Cancer. Now, why is Cancer the crab? Well, let me show you what happens here. Starting on December 25th, the sun is going to rise a degree on its axis. On December 26th, an additional degree. 27th, additional degree. 28th. Now, these dots are not to scale, guys. I'm just showing you that every day the sun is going to move its way through the zodiac a degree a day. And each sign has 30 days. So it's going to go a degree a day, a degree a day. It's going to rise, rise, rise. What's going to happen is that when it hits Cancer, the crab, that's the summer solstice. That's June 21st. That is the longest day of the year, the shortest day of the year. It happens to be the cusp of Cancer and Gemini. Now, what the sun is going to do is then it's not going to rise an additional degree or lower an additional degree on the 22nd. What it's going to do is it's going to stay at that exact same height for 3 days. So that's where the metaphor of the crab, because the crab is the sideways walking creature. That's why, because the sun walks sideways. Then on June 25th, it's going to drop a degree. June 26th, it's going to drop another degree. Every single day, the sun is getting lower by a degree a day. Now the nights are getting longer. The days are getting shorter. Now, when it hits here, this is the cusp of Sagittarius Capricorn. What it does is it's going to now, that's December 21st. That's the longest night of the year. That's the winter solstice. The ancients used to look out at the sky on the winter solstice, and they noticed something. They noticed that the sun wouldn't crack the horizon. So metaphorically, they used to say that God's son was dead. Where it's going to walk like a crab for 3 days after, where now suddenly God's son was dead for 3 days. We're on December 25th, or the birth of all the gods, including Christ, comes back to life. It's born again. The risen Savior, the light of the world, the only begotten Son. So that's what the sun does. December 25th, rise a degree, rise a degree, rise a degree, stop, walk sideways for 3 days, drop a degree, drop a degree, drop a degree, stop, walk sideways for 3 days. The sun does this year in and year out. And if you've ever seen the sun's figure 8 pattern that it does, if you take a picture of it every single day from the same location in the sky, it makes the figure 8 patterns. Well, the edges of the 8 are the solstices, and the equinox is right in the middle. So Leo is the lion. He's the king. He's the king of the jungle, the king of the savannah, whatever, the king of the desert. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, that's Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the stalk of wheat. Remember before when you said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So Virgo is the sign of the woman. So whenever you hear woman, virgin, wheat, because that's the bread, grain, seed, barley, that's the beer, corn, that's Virgo. Because again, if you look at this right here, I'm highlighting it right here. This is the stalk of wheat that Virgo holds. Now, I will show you that the wheat, the barley, and the corn was harvested thousands of years ago. It is mentioned in Scripture, and I will get to that. For people who tell me corn is a relatively new thing, it's not. I'll show you. Now, Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over, or actually technically now passes under the fall equinox. and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you press the wine here. Libra is also olive season. That's when you press the olives to make the oil. So Libra is all law things. Law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, wine, vineyard, wine press, or olive oil, olive oil. All law, all wine and grapes, all olive. That's Libra. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion. He is the betrayer. When a scorpion attacks you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. Feel free to Google this. Look up scorpion bite or scorpion sting. And it's where the mafia gets their metaphor for the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So what happens? The sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio, and then finally in Sagittarius. Oh, let me go into Scorpio real quick. Let me finish with this. Scorpio, there are actually 8 evolutions of the Scorpio. Scorpio is the scorpion. Now, these are not all required to understand this, but these are. So we have the scorpion, the eagle, the dove, the phoenix. These are all different ways of expressing Scorpio, and I will get into that, I promise. So the scorpion, the eagle, the dove, or the phoenix. So in Libra, it's judged. In Scorpio, it's betrayed. And then in Sagittarius, this is where the man with the bow and the arrow shoots the sun, killing it. Why? Because the last day of Sagittarius is the first day of winter. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have Capricorn, who's the goat. Now, why is the goat at the very bottom right here? Well, the goat is at the very bottom right here because as the sun is climbing, again, this is not to scale, a degree a day alongside the zodiac, it starts to climb up in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the goat, because the mountain goat climbs the mountain, and the zodiac is known as the Great Mountain. So those are the 12 signs. So now with that, let's start going into some things that they talk to you about in church. The things that they talk to you about in church are names for Jesus, the Lion of Judah, and all that sort of stuff, right? Well, let me show you how much astrology is in it. When Jesus, by the way, is the sun, they show you here, the sun behind his head. That's not a halo. And if every picture you look up of Jesus on the internet, including infant Jesus, there is a sun behind his head. He's the Son of God. And I'm going to show you that. When Jesus the sun is in the sign Capricorn, the goat, he is the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in Aquarius, or Jesus is in Aquarius, the sign of the man, he is the Son of Man. Pisces, the 2 fish, he is the fisher of men, and it's also why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. The ram in Aries, he is known as the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, remember, in Egypt, it was known as the scarab. St. Augustine, who Christians quote me all the time for being such a good Christian, calls Jesus the good beetle. Jesus, when he's in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he is born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He's known as the just one. I mean, these are just a few, but these are related to each one of the zodiac signs. Now, let me start to show you how this works. In Deuteronomy 32, I'm going to highlight the words for you. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let me show you the honey and the milk, because, it's always called the land of milk and honey. Let me show you where the land of milk and honey is. In the sign Cancer, there is a closely knit group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. So that's where the honey comes from. The Beehive Cluster, if you trace it back even further, was originally called the Manger. Now, that right here is the first day of summer. Now, if you continue, this is the first day of winter down here. So it's the opposing signs, right? First day of summer, first day of winter. Now, Sagittarius, in Sagittarius, you have the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which is where the milk comes from. So your land, from the first day of summer to the first day of winter, from Cancer to Sagittarius, that is your land of milk and honey. Now, we know that olive oil, remember, is Libra. Lambs is Aries. Goat is Capricorn. Rams is Aries. The wheat is the Virgin holding the wheat stalk, Virgo. The wine and the red grapes, that's Libra. Because remember, Libra is law, olives, and wine, remember? And the bull is Taurus. There are 7 different signs in Deuteronomy 32. Now, let me show you how this works with the zodiac. Jesus led his disciples to the mount. Let me highlight this for you too. To the Mount of Olives. So let me highlight olives. After his last Passover, so that he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So check this out, guys. Passover takes place in Aries, which is right here. So I'm highlighting Aries right here. Where he then leads them to the Mount of Olives. Well, who's Olives? That's Libra. Well, that is the opposing sign. So there's a connection right there, guys, that I told you. Either opposing sign or connecting sign. Now, while he's there, he's waiting for Judas to betray him. Who's the betrayer? Well, Libra's connecting sign is Scorpio, who is the betrayer, remember? But guess what? I'm going to remove that because if you read carefully, it says they're waiting for him to betray. He hasn't betrayed yet. So you're still in Libra. So while you're in Libra, he gives a parable of the true vine, which has to do with grapes, which is Libra. So you go from Aries to Libra, opposing signs, and then you tease Scorpio, which is the next connecting sign. But you're still in Libra, so you talk about the parable of the true vine. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Remember, I told you the evolution of Scorpio, right? Okay, so the first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. So it's the lowest form of life on Earth. In the Garden of Eden, if you remember, the first thing that God does after the deception is he doesn't kick Adam and Eve out. That's not the first thing he does. The very first thing he does, if you remember, is he takes the legs away from the snake. He makes it slither on its belly. It's a punishment. In Mexico, during Santo de la Muerte, the men get dressed up in suits and they get on their hands and knees and they crawl on their belly to church. It's punishment. The evolution, which is known as the ascendant, is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth. So you got the lowest form of life on Earth, and then it evolves to the highest flying form of life on Earth. The eagle will then evolve into the phoenix. The phoenix, what is the story of the phoenix? It's a flaming ball that dies and is resurrected from its ashes. It's the story of Christ. It's the story of the sun. So Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So let's make sense of that. There are 12 zodiac signs, and there are 4 seasons. So each zodiac, there are 3 zodiac signs per season, if you do the math. So this is summer, this is fall, this is winter, and this is spring. Okay? Now, the first sign in the season, let me just show you with Cancer. So I'm going to break this off right here like this. Okay. So what I've highlighted right here is the summer. The first sign is known as the cardinal sign, which is where there's cardinals in church. Now, any astrologer will tell you that what you can do is each sign is 30 days. They can be broken down into 3 10-day segments. The first, second, and third, deacon, which is why you have deacons and cardinals in church. So the first sign is the cardinal sign, the second sign is the fixed sign, and the third sign is the mutable sign, the water sign that takes you out of the season. Now, why is Leo and Aquarius, by the way, opposing signs? The lion, the man, the ox, and the eagle, opposing signs. Now, why is it called the fixed sign? Because it's the second out of three. It's in the middle of the season. See, Leo is right in the middle of summer. Scorpio is right in the middle of fall. Aquarius is right in the middle of winter. And Taurus is right in the middle of spring. So, realistically, guys, is there going to be a four-headed creature in the heavens? Or is it literally just showing you this X pattern in the zodiac? I mean, they show you this in Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had four faces. One face was that of a cherub. The second, the face of a human being. The third, the face of a lion. And the fourth, the face of an eagle. It's the same thing. Now, Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Now I noticed the crown of 12 stars, the 7 crowns, the 10 horns, the 7 heads. That's the numerology breakdown of the Bible. And I'm going to show you how many different sciences are in the Bible at the end. But I recognize them, but I'm just giving you the astrology in it. So based on what we just read, a woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in, it's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. Now, if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So we need to go back to the zodiac to understand this. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So there's 12 signs, and there's a 24-hour-a-day clock. So each day, the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. So down here, Capricorn, this is midnight to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2 when the sun's rays are at its highest, when the sun is at its highest, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, and then here's Virgo, 4 to 6. So 4 to 6 p.m. Well, if the sun is in Virgo between 4 and 6 p.m., right now it's 4:48 p.m. I'm looking outside. The sun is still out. So if the sun is out, is the moon not metaphorically at her feet? Because the moon would be down. I mean, not literally. We know the moon is up there, but it's a metaphor. If the sun is up, the moon is down. If the moon is up, the sun is down. That's all it's trying to tell you. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So I'm highlighting the tail right now so you can see how big it is. This is the tail. Now the constellation Draco is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. See, this is just celestial poetry, guys, but it gets deeper. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep, that's Aries, in the midst of wolves. Okay, there's a constellation called Lupus, which means wolf, which is in Libra. That's an opposing sign right there. So be as wise as serpents. Right here between Scorpio and Sagittarius, you have Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. And the serpent's name is Serpens. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Well, Scorpio is the evolution of the dove. So what do we see here? Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So we have the sheep and then the wolf, opposing signs, and then we have 1, 2, 3 connecting signs in a row. See, this is starting to outline the heavens for you so that you understand it. Now, I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's take a much longer passage and see if we can decode it as well. So this comes to the point of the story of Job. Now, the story of Job, a couple of things about the story of Job. Number one, it is easily the oldest book in the Bible. Now, where it's put in the Bible, you would think that it would be before Genesis if that were the case, but that's not why they did it. They organized the Bible during the Synod of Jamnia in 100 AD, which is a completely different story. which is irrelevant to this. But the book of Job is actually the oldest story in the Bible. In fact, the story goes something like this. Job is the most faithful servant to God. Satan comes up to God and says, look, he's only faithful because he has everything. He has money, he has land, he has family, he has wife, he has animals, he has a home. If you take this away from him, he will curse you. So God thinks about it and he's like, I'll take that bet. The only caveat is you can do whatever you want to him, but you cannot take his life. So as you can imagine, Satan starts doing all this stuff to Job. And then at one point he's just sitting down on the ground and he's got like boils all over him. And he's calling out to God for like 10 pages in the Bible. It's a very long passage. He's just calling out to God. And then God replies to him. What I'm going to read you is God's reply to him. Now, I told you the story about what happened. Listen to how God replies. Job 38:32. He says, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The word Mazzaroth was left intentionally untranslated because if you were to Google it and look at what Mazzaroth means, it would mean the zodiac. That's what it comes out to. Mazzaroth over time becomes the word Mazalot, which again evolves again and survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov. And Mazel Tov means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Finally, two out in the open celestial metaphors, right, guys? Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. Now, wait. There's something very interesting that happens here. See, the Pleiades, they're in Taurus. And Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini. And then the bear and its cubs are between Gemini and Cancer. Well, guys, the first challenge to him, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, is 3 signs in a row. The first 3 things that he says to him. It outlines 3 signs in a row. Then who can tip over the water jars of heaven? Well, that's Aquarius, right? The man with the water pitcher. Then he says, do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lions? That's Leo. So what do we have here so far? We have Aquarius, and then we have Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. 4 signs in a row. I mean, this was not done by accident, guys. But if you keep reading, it gets even better. Who provides food for the raven? The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? Mriga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. Do you give the horse its strength? So we know because he mentioned the horse. The only sign with the horse is Sagittarius. It's the man on the horse with the bow and the arrow, right? So we know that's Sagittarius, but if you keep reading, it really hammers it in. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, see, when he mentions the quiver is something that sits next to the horse. It's hanging off the horse's side, and it holds the arrows, because Sagittarius is the man with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? The eagle is the Scorpio evolution. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? Well, Leviathan was an ancient fish god, the same as Mithra, the same as Dagon, who all had December 25th birthdays, by the way, too. They were Piscean fish deities, because Pisces is the 2 fish. So that's what he replies to Job. That's his reply to Job. Now, if we check what happened here, you have Aquarius and Pisces, 2 connecting signs, Sagittarius and Scorpio, 2 connecting signs, and then you have 5 signs in a row. This is outlining the heavens for you guys so you guys can understand this. It's like a cheat code. It's like you're learning how to multiply, right? And then the teacher gives you a bunch of examples to practice at home. It's the same thing here. It's just practicing understanding the heavens. Now, answers to the questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, the story goes that the blind man comes up to Jesus and he says, "Please heal me." And then Jesus basically said, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, I'm not trying to insult. He basically says, "Yes, through your faith, I will heal you," and everything. So he basically spits on his fingers, touches the dirt, touches the man's eyes, and then when the dirt falls off, he's able to see. But the sun does the same thing too. See, it's 5 o'clock now in my time zone. And in about an hour and a half, because we're in winter right now, I'm not going to be able to see outside. In fact, without artificial light, without lampposts, without flashlights, without anything, without car lights, you're really blind. What has to happen is the sun has to come up and touch your eyes in the morning in order for you to get the gift of sight again. Now, how he walked on water, we know the story. We know that Jesus walked on water. We know that from the story, right? But the sun does that too. If you've ever seen the sun walk on water during dawn or dusk, if you've ever been on a fishing boat or at the beach and just looked out into the water, you see it dancing on the water. Now remember, guys, the Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. The Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. In Greek, Christ is Christos. Christos means anointed one or oil. Now, doesn't oil also walk on water when you pour it in? So you have Jesus walking on water, the Son, and Christos walking on water. This is a triple entendre right here that they have buried. Now, how he turned water into wine, well, this isn't a parlor trick. This is actually a process. See, the reason why Earth is considered a woman and God is considered a man actually has a story. And it has to do with the fact of one thing. It has to do with the rain, the sacred fluid. The rain that comes from the heavens. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's the sacred fluid. And what happens is, metaphorically, is that God ejaculates onto Earth. And then as the water seeps into Earth's core, trees grow, plants grow, vegetables grow, the vegetation grows, animals are able to be fed. It nurtures life. The Earth becomes pregnant. So think about it like this, guys. Taurus, as above, so below. You see the bull in the sky, you put the plow on the bull on Earth. And then that's April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. And then you plant the grape seeds, and then it rains and it rains and it rains throughout the year. And then in Libra, you pick the grapes in order to make the wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples? Well, let me use this next slide to show you. So, Libra right here, remember the law? James is known as the just one. Scorpio right here is the betrayer, that is Judas. Aquarius right here, John the Baptist. And then you have Gemini right here, Thomas Didymus. Now, why is Gemini Thomas Didymus? Because in Hebrew, the word ta'om, or ta'om, how similar it sounds. Ta'om means twin. Whereas again, in Greek, remember, written in Greek, the word Didymus means twin. Twin. That's Gemini. And as one of my mentors says about Pisces, Santos Bonacci, he talks about Pisces. Well, Simon Peter. Well, now Michael goes to Mike, Thomas goes to Tom, Richard goes to Rick. These all make sense. But Simon doesn't go to Peter unless you understand astrology. Simon's job was a fisherman. So that's the fish in Pisces. And why is he Peter? The ruling planet of Pisces is Jupiter or Jew Peter. So I've just given you 5 examples of the disciples. I'm not going to go through them all right now because I want to continue with the presentation, but there's 5 examples right there. They each have a part of the story to it. Now, why was he betrayed with a kiss by Judas? We went over that. Why was he dead for 3 days? We went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th? We went over that. Now, understand this, guys, because you might have this question. The science only works for people in the northern hemisphere, and there is a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the northern hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So what that basically means is, for those of you guys who are in Australia or New Zealand who watch me, because I know I have quite a few, for example, Taurus is the bull. As above, so below. You see the bull, you plant. Well, guess what? In the southern hemisphere, you have to go to its opposing sign. That's when you plant in Scorpio, because everything is reversed. Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, this is when you harvest. Well, when do you harvest in the southern hemisphere? You harvest during Pisces, the opposing sign, and so on and so forth, guys. So, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to show how I took the book of Revelation and I wanted to demystify it because people are legitimately scared of it, and there's no reason to be. So we're going to go through the entire book of Revelation. Now, guys, we did 4-7 already. This is the four-headed creature. This is also known as the tetramorph. The lion, the ox, the man, and the flying eagle. So we did this already, so I'm going to skip it, guys, okay? Because we already did it. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." So why is the Lion of Judah? Why did they use the Lion of Judah? Well, that's Leo. And the ruling planet of Leo is the sun, or Christ. So obviously he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Revelation 6:1. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. The first. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, or the 4 fixed signs, Revelation 4:7, guys. The man, the ox, the eagle, and the bull. Say in a voice like thunder, "Come." Now, why does the Lamb open the first one? Well, because Aries is the beginning of the year. That's April. That's March, April. And if you guys know Italian, the word apri, which is the root of April, means to open. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, the 4 fixed signs that we went over, say in a voice like thunder. The reason they put voice like thunder, guys, that they want you to know is that in Hebrew, the word for thunder translates to voices. So they used to think when it was thundering, God was talking or he was mad or something. Revelation 6:2, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. I mean, it's just obvious. It's open. It's out in the open. Who is the rider on the horse with the bow and the arrow? Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures, the 4 fixed signs again, guys, saying 2 pounds of wheat. That's Virgo. Remember the lady with the wheat stalk? And 6 pounds of barley. That's the beer. That's the lady with the wheat stalk. And do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, it's interesting, right? That the keywords that I told you for Virgo and Libra are right there. These are connecting signs, Virgo and Libra. There's just 2 examples of each. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. Why did they mention goat hair and the moon? Because if you go here, and I'm going to use this all sorts of torn up thing right here to show you, Capricorn is the goat right here. But if you go to its opposing sign, remember, always opposing, always connecting. Cancer, the ruling planet is the moon. Then Leo is the sun. Then the rest are all planets. But the sun and the moon back in the day were part of the original 7 that they knew. They actually counted the sun and the moon as planets. So that's why they mention goat and moon together, because they make a pattern just by connecting those words. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. Now, the Jehovah's Witness and a bunch of other denominations make it clear that only 144,000 people are predestined to go to heaven to see God. That's the idea. But I'm going to show you how anyone can attain the 144. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12. And the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48, and that's 144,000. Then times it by the crown, that's 144,000. That passage, guys, what it's actually trying to tell you is that when you've activated all your chakras, that is when you get to go see God. Meanwhile, people tell you that chakras are satanic. It's insane. 9.3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given powers like that of scorpions on the earth. Okay, guys, so I'm going to show you in about 5 minutes when we get to the book of Matthew, 5-10 minutes, that locusts are a food source. And I'm going to show you why they're trying to get you to eat bugs too nowadays. But what are the scorpion's power? Well, it betrays, right? That's what I told you the scorpion does. It's the betrayer. So how does locusts betray? How are they given the power to betray? Well, think about it. In small quantities, locusts are considered a food group. But in large quantities, they're literally one of the 10 plagues. It's a plague. So that's how it betrays, because it goes from being something good to something awful. Revelation 9:7. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. The horse is Sagittarius. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold. So that's the sun in Sagittarius. It's a metaphor. And their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair. That's Virgo. And their teeth were like lion's teeth. That's Leo. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. Okay, so we have Sagittarius, Virgo, Leo, and Scorpio. Guess what, guys? Sagittarius and Leo are connecting signs. Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. Sagittarius and Scorpio are connecting signs. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. So, more patterns, guys. Now, this is Revelation 12. This is the dragon. We did this already, so I crossed it out. We're going to continue. Revelation 13:2. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. So check this out, guys. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is broken down into two words, Camel, or Camelos, and Pardalis. It's in Gemini. Camelopardalis is the camel, Pardalis is the leopard, the camel leopard. In fact, this Camelopardalis was the original name for the giraffe because they saw this thing with a lanky neck like a camel and spots on it like a leopard, and they just called it the camel leopard. That was its original name. That's in Gemini. Ursa Major, the bear is in Cancer, and the lion is Leo. So check this out. Revelation 13:2. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, that's Gemini, but had feet like those of a bear, that's Cancer, and mouth like that of a lion, that's Leo. Guys, in that one short sentence, you have 3 signs in a row, 3 connecting signs. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, that's Aries, but it spoke like a dragon. The dragon begins in Aries. So this is literally just giving you Aries examples. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense. Look at this, guys. Myrrh and frankincense. I didn't mention this to you before. However, now that we're talking about it, myrrh and frankincense, if you don't know this, are actually olive plants. And guess what? The wine is also Libra, and the olive oil is also Libra. So this whole sentence, myrrh and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, that's literally Libra. Of fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. The cattle, that's Taurus. The sheep, that's Aries. Cattle and sheep are connecting signs. Horse is Sagittarius. I mean, it's everywhere, guys. So I just wanted to go through Revelation with you guys to show you it's really not that scary, and you really shouldn't worry too much about it. And we're going to continue. So let's read this again. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So just bear with me while I take a sip of this for a second. Let's go into the book of Matthew, guys, because this is going to be even deeper. A deep dive into the book of Matthew. What I have done is I put the zodiac. I don't even need to highlight it. I put the zodiac on the left, and then if you guys see, there's like a little red thing here. I try and show you where we are in the story, and I explain it to you on the way. So, Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac. So, solstice, equinox, solstice, equinox. Incidentally, by the way, when you guys connect it, you see this figure before, right? The cross. This is the cross of God's Son that he carries to his death. So, the kingdom of heaven is Leo because the Son, or Christ, rules over it. Now, the closest of these 4 infliction points to Leo is Cancer. That's June 21st. That's the summer solstice. So that's where the gospel begins. This is the cusp handover date between Cancer and Leo. It's the beginning of the kingdom right here. So remember, you're touching Cancer, you're touching Leo. You could talk about either of them. Now, Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. That's a little weird, right? The locusts and the camel hair, that doesn't really... We'll get to that. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, for those of you who are about to say Vitruvian Man didn't exist when this was written, you can use a stick figure. It doesn't even matter. I'm just using Vitruvian Man because I think it's aesthetic. And superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. Okay. So here's what we do. Ready? Now look at this. The head is in Cancer. The stars, the beehive cluster, is in Cancer. That's the honey. His mouth is part of the head, which is in Cancer. He's eating the honey. Okay? Now Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust. So there it is right there. Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So guys, when the media is trying to tell you a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, it might be true, but that's why they're trying to get you to eat bugs, because it's biblical. They're trying to fulfill that. A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair. So if we look at this right here, we had Cancer, the beehive cluster. Then we had the mouth, so he was eating the honey. We started in Leo, and then we went to Cancer. Now we're in Gemini, which is a little lower on the body, so I would say it's like right here, which is where he'd wear his clothes, right? Camelopardalis is in Gemini. Then a little lower on the body, so we started in Leo. We went to Cancer, the beehive cluster. I'm sorry for repeating, guys, but I really just want to show you how simple this is. The mouth is in Cancer. He's eating the honey. Then a little lower on the body, the clothes made out of camel hair. He's wearing the camel hair jacket. And then a little lower on the body, that's Taurus. That's like right here. It's the midsection. That's kind of where you would wear the belt. Taurus represented by the bull, and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini, which is right here. So guys, we went from Leo to Cancer to Gemini to Taurus to explain his clothing, what he ate, and everything. And that's literally 4 signs in a row to open this gospel. So next would be the baptism. So we were here. Hold on. We were here, right at the cusp. Well, how do you go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? You'd go to the opposing sign. Because now you're touching Capricorn Aquarius. You're touching Aquarius. So now you can have the baptism, because that's what Aquarius is. It's a man pouring it out. It's a baptism. Here we see how it makes a leap from one cusp to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think of the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, like I'm showing you down here, then John the Baptist must be 6 months apart and decrease a degree a day, like this. Because when you start to go up, the other side goes down. That's just natural, right? And it's also why John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why, guys, St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to here where the story started. That day is July 24th. Well, he's tempted by Satan in the desert for 40 days, right? So why doesn't anybody think to just count 40 days? Well, if you count 40 days, it takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, right? Well, what's the very next passage? If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. Then the next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Both law and judgment are Libra. So we started here, and then we went 4 signs this way. Now we started here. Tell these stones to become loaves of bread, Virgo. You are subject to judgment. Libra, those are connecting signs. Law, oil, and wine, remember? So this gospel, guys, goes to the left and then goes to the right. But at the end of the day, this gospel starts off by explaining 7 signs in a row. So for those of you guys who are trying to wrap your head around this, I want to explain it to you like this. Cancer is the crab, right? Or the scarab. Each one of these zodiac signs tells a piece of a story. It has keywords that you can use to make an infinite amount of different types of scriptures. Cancer is the crab or the scarab, but Cancer is also the donkey because the Salus Borealis is in there. Cancer is also the great bear, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Cancer is also the beehive cluster, that's the honey or the bees. So you have a whole bunch of different words you can use that connect to a zodiac sign that allow you to tell these stories. Now, Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. Sheep is Aries, that's right here. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? Well, the thorn bushes are Libra right here, opposing signs. So once again, moving along, Matthew 13, later the same day, Jesus left the house and he sat beside the lake. So where's beside the lake? That is right here between Pisces and Aquarius. Why? Because he's beside the lake. If he was in the lake, he could have been in either one of the 2 water signs, right? But he's beside the lake. It's how they use the words. And it's very important because if you take this cusp and you go to its opposing sign, touching Leo and Virgo, the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast. That's all Virgo. Now, again, if you just follow this back, you're touching Pisces again, the 2 fish. Now you have the fishing net parable, guys. So this is opposing sign, connecting signs, all these different words and things that go into all this. This is how they wrote scripture. This is how it was done. This teaches you the heavens. This is the Farmer's Almanac. This teaches you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Now, Gemini is the sign of the 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the cusp right here of Gemini and Cancer. How do we know that? Because, well, you're in Gemini because he's talking about twins. But if you follow this opposing sign right here, it takes you to the cusp of Capricorn and Sagittarius. And what day is that, guys? I mentioned it to you earlier. That's the first day of winter. That's the day of death. So what gets you? What is the very next story? It's the death of John the Baptist. See, this is how they write stories, guys. As I've mentioned previously, the death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So I'm going to show you how scripture is written now. And I came up with a sentence that pretty much explains it. Let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but it is not. I came up with it. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation. Or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. Those are opposing signs. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it splits the land in half. And that's how scripture is done, guys. Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread. Well, the bread is Virgo. And 2 fish. Who's the 2 fish? I mean, that's literally Pisces. And hello, those are opposing signs again. This is the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo. And now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. All law, all wine. Just no oil, but all law and all wine. Also, Virgo and Libra are two connecting signs. And then next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays him with a kiss. That's 3 signs in a row. And then Sagittarius right here. This is the day of death, the winter solstice. It ends with 4 signs in a row. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. That's Dane Rudyard. I understand this language. I've spent the last 13 years studying this, and I want to make this as easy as hell for you guys to follow along and understand this. I want to teach you guys this language because it's beautiful if you read it. If you read the Bible and you read these stories this way, it's incredible. So are you starting to see the great implication of this so far, guys? This means that at the very, very, very least, the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. Would you not agree? Now, what is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, and so on and so forth. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, then to the Quran, the Book of Mormon. I mean, it goes on. I'm going to show you all that. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So what I wanted to do is not to start an argument, but I wanted to put this to rest, the idea that America was a Christian nation. The U.S. was not founded as a Christian nation. Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. That's Thomas Jefferson. I have found Christian dogma unintelligible. That's Benjamin Franklin. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. That's John Adams. The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon. That's George Washington. The U.S. was founded upon secular values. And I'm going to continue. And the day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus, by the Supreme Being as his father in the womb of a virgin, will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. That's Thomas Jefferson in a letter to John Adams. What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been sent as the guardians of the liberties of the people, James Madison. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries, James Madison. And now, one of the founding fathers, Thomas Paine, this is my favorite quote of them all. 250 years ago, the Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man called Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the adoration originally paid to the sun. Now, how did he know about this 250 years ago, but we seem to have forgotten it? Now, I'm going to show you how they use it in society, astrotheology in society, guys. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? So check this out. Panic of 1907, October 1907, Teddy Roosevelt, Republican. Wall Street crash of 1929, October 24th, 1929. That's actually a handover date to Scorpio, but it's still with the Libra energy. Herbert Hoover, Republican. Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, Ronald Reagan, Republican. Friday the 14th mini crash, October 13th, 1989, George H.W. Bush, Republican. Stock market downturn of 2002, October 9th, 2002, George W. Bush, Republican. 10% in most of the world's indices drop. October 24th, 2008, crash. That's the handover date to Scorpio. George W. Bush, Republican. And now I can add on this, October 10th, 2025, Donald Trump, Republican. The crypto market just completely imploded. So guys, you have to understand is that, and this is a little bit off topic, but you guys have to understand why it's in Libra, because Libra is the judge, okay? And they're judging us. They're taking our money away. That's why. BlackRock has an AI program called Aladdin that is so powerful that not only does it track market trends, but it's actually powerful enough to set them. So These are the major stock market crashes that have happened in the last 100 and so years, 120 years or so. It's interesting. Now, this is where it gets even hairier. The Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretations of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. So, guys, why would the Roman Catholic Church, if you've been following this so far, you can see there's definitely astrology in the Bible. I mean, I don't know if you're completely on board or partially on board, whatever, but you have to admit that at least I'm making a good case for it. Why would the Catholic Church tell you astrology is evil? Why does Christianity tell you astrology is evil? Why do Muslims tell you that astrology is evil? Now, guys, you remember this movie, Face Off, right? With John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, where they do the face swap? Well, what is Nicolas Cage's character's names? Remember, this isn't a movie, guys. This is a movie. This is how they put it together. Well, Nicolas Cage's and his brother in the movie's character names are Castor and Pollux Troy. His name was Castor and his brother was Pollux. Well, what was John Travolta's? Well, he was Sean Archer. Who is the Archer? Would that be Sagittarius, the opposing sign, the man with the bow and the arrow? Isn't that an archer? So they do this in movies. There are a ton of characters in Harry Potter that are named after stars or constellations. You have Draco Malfoy, Pollux Black, Sirius Black, Andromeda Black, Regulus Black, Arcturus Black, Cassiopeia Black, Orion Black, and Cygnus Black. Now, there's a demon star in Taurus called Algol, and most of your astrologers will know what it is. It's a demon star. It has a lot of evil attached to it. But Algol is also known as a demon star. In Batman Begins, the evil character's literal name is Ra's al Ghul, which is where he got his name. This is from the 90s, guys. In the 1990s song video for the Cranberries Zombie, which was recently redone 7 years ago, I think, by Bad Wolves. Here's Dolores O'Riordan's painted gold like the sun, and her head dressings represents the rays of the sun. Here's the rays of the sun. But is it that? So they show her singing, and you could say she's the sun, but look at this. The sun is on the cross, and here's Sagittarius down here, just waiting to take her out. I mean, this is music videos, it's movies, it's everywhere. But it's not just the Bible. If you don't know by now the Bible is not original, you still might have doubts. Here is 6,000 years of ancient holy texts, going from 5 Sumerian tablets, and I could have done 100 Sumerian tablets. I just stopped at 5 because I think I got the point across. The Babylonian Enuma Elish, the Code of Hammurabi. The Code of Hammurabi is where the Jews get their punishment and code of ethics from. To the Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the Gnostic texts, all of them, to the Quran, to the Book of Mormon. I'm still working on the Apocrypha, the Ethiopian Bible, and the Colburn Bible, but they are all the same. Let's start with the most famous one, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which incidentally, guys, by the way, this stuff is real. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the story is, it might be a little fancified a little bit for storytelling with a little bit of a flair. But the reason we invaded Iraq has nothing to do with the oil or weapons of mass destruction. The reason we went there, if you read the Wikipedia leaks from Hillary Clinton, is the reason we went to Iraq is because they actually found Gilgamesh's tomb and Nephilim bones. So when we went over there in 2003, the first thing we did was we built a military site directly over it. Gilgamesh was real. But check this out. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh. As I read this to you guys, remember that this is 6,000 years old, okay? May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Ulaya and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of the great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. Guys, the bull of heaven. Taurus, right? May the farmer mourn you who praised you to the skies in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you who massaged you with sweet-smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. The bear is Ursa Major, the great bear, which is in Gemini and Cancer. The leopard is Camelopardalis. It is in Gemini. Mariga, or the deer, is located in Orion between Taurus and Gemini. The lion is Leo, the wild bull is Taurus, the rivers are Pisces, the water sign that signifies the water. The bull of heaven is Taurus, the shepherd is Aries, as previously mentioned. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. The brewer and the fine beer is from barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Ishtar's priestess is Virgo, the woman. The sweet-smelling oil is the oil from Libra. The mourning like their own brother is Gemini, the brothers. The only two signs that are missing out of the 12 zodiac signs are Scorpio and Capricorn. So no mention of the goat and no mention of the 4 evolutions or the 8 evolutions of the Scorpio. Now, I want to explain to you guys how I came about this, what I basically did. What I did was I took Ptolemy's list in 150 AD that he itemized the 48 constellations they knew about at the time, including the sun and the moon being part of the 7 planets that they knew about at the time. What I did was I took those and I mapped out where they were. Because at 150 AD, that's much closer to the time frame that these were written. Because now we know there's 88 constellations in our neck of the woods, but I didn't use those. If I didn't use those, I used the ancient one. So you take the 48 constellations, and then you map out the 12 zodiac signs, and then you have Mariga, which is the deer, and you have Ursa Major, which is the bear, and then so on and so forth. And then you have yourself a nice little keyword stack where you can basically find this stuff. Astrotheology and Enki and the world order. Father Enki engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull. Great dragon who stands in Eridug. A grove of vines extending over the land. Where stags are born. Where wild goats are born in meadows. You close up the days and make the months enter their houses. The bull is Taurus. The dragon and its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. The stag is another word for deer, which is Mariga, which is in Orion, which is between Taurus and Gemini. And the goats are Capricorn. So we have Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius. That's 7 zodiac signs in a row to open this tablet. Enki and Nirhusaja, this is another Sumerian tablet. In Dilmun, the raven was not yet cawing, the partridge not cackling, the lion did not slay, the wolf was not carrying off lambs, the dog had not been taught to make kids curl up. What you'll notice, guys, that I've done is I'm giving you one example. I obviously didn't break down all the text, although if you go to my website, debunkmywork.com, you can find all the breakdowns of all the text. But in order for this presentation to stick and not be 450,000 years long, I just gave you one example from each tablet. So the raven is the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders Virgo. The lion is Leo. These two are connecting signs. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. 3 signs in a row. The lamb is Aries, which is the wolf's opposing sign. The dog is Canis Major, which is 11 stars in Cancer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and Libra are 4 signs in a row. Guys, these are 6,000-year-old tablets that are showing you the same exact pattern recognition that I've been showing you through the Bible. In Nana's descent to the netherworld, she took the 7 divine powers. She had placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, and the other the life-giving water, they will offer you a river full of water. They will offer you a field with its grain. They eat no fish. The 7 of them poured the milk. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe. He turned his feet into snake's feet, in the beer house and the tavern. And if you notice, guys, I have the lines here, right? The top line, she took the 7 divine powers. That's 14 to 19. Because these tablets are so ancient and they're tablets and they're not broken down like scripture where you can get book, line, verse, word. What I did is these are the lines in the tablets. So if you were to go to Inanna's Descent to the Netherworld and looked up the 14th to 19th line, you'll see that I'm showing you this. If I'm able to do this, I should do this to show you. So the 7 divine powers are the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. They are in Taurus. The twin is Gemini. Those are connecting signs. The life-giving water is Aquarius. The life-giving water is Aquarius, the baptism water. The river full of water is Pisces. I told you, depending on how they word it, is going to show you which water they're using. Those are connecting signs. The field and its grain are Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. The fish is Pisces as well. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The shepherd is Aries. So far, we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. 5 signs in a row. The snake is serpent, which sits in sidereal between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The beer house is Virgo. So there's 7 signs total here, guys. 5 in a row. Enki's journey to Nibiru. Its ears roar like a bull. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. Your vault is a bull raising its horn. Your door is a lion who seizes a man. Your staircase is a lion coming down on a man. Rising sea without a rival, mighty awe-inspiring river which terrifies the land, a lion in the midst of the Abzu. The Suhar carp play among the honey herbs. Enki had oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Enki reached for the beer and had emmer wheat beer pressed out. The bull is Taurus, the bull of heaven. The lion is Leo, the man is Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The carp is Pisces and the honey is the beehive cluster in Cancer. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus are 4 signs in a row. The wheat beer is Virgo. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs. Leo and Virgo are connecting signs. Cancer and Leo are connecting signs. Cancer, Leo, Virgo are 3 signs in a row. Again, guys, this is like homework. Show me what this story tells you in the heavens. Now, the missing ones are Gemini, Sagittarius, and Capricorn, but check this out. In the missing one, we had 9 out of 12 zodiac signs here. The missing one, Sagittarius and Capricorn are connecting signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. So even in the missing signs, guys, are patterns. There are countless other Sumerian texts. I only give you 5 examples to show the pattern. Let's move on to the Enuma Elish. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, a Mushusu dragon, a mad dog, and scorpion man, half fish, half man, half bull. The horned snake is Ophiuchus. A dragon, Draco, the mad dog, is the dog star Sirius, which is in Cancer. The scorpion man is Scorpio-Aquarius mix. The half man, half fish is Aquarius-Pisces border, which blends the fish and the man sign. And the half man, half bull, which is half Aquarius, half Taurus. The code of Hammurabi. If a man has stolen ox or sheep or ass or pig or ship, whether from the temple or the palace, he shall pay 30-fold. The man sign is Aquarius, the ox is Taurus, the sheep is Aries, the ass is Acellus Borealis or donkey, located in Cancer. The pig is a constellation called Porcus. I just threw that in there, even though... and the ship is a constellation called Argo that goes from Cancer to Scorpio. So it's 7 signs total. Egyptian Book of the Dead. O mighty of knives, lady of the 2 lands, the one who smashes the enemies of the weary-hearted one, the one who does what is wise, the one free of wrong. The name of its gatekeeper is Long-Horned Bull. What is to be said when arriving at the 5th portal? Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated, O fiery one, mistress of heat, the joyful one, the one whom the entities of the bald-headed do not descend, the one who asks that something be given to her without the swift glance entering into her. The name of its gatekeeper is one who spears the disaffected. The lady is Virgo, the woman, and the longhorned bull is Taurus, the bull. Oh, here's another example from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I guess I put 2 here. Chapter for becoming Ta, eating bread, drinking beer, purifying the hinder parts, and being alive in Heliopolis. What will you live on, say the gods and spirits to me? I will live and have power through bread. Where will you eat it, say the gods and spirits to me? I will have power and I will eat it under the branches of the tree of Hathor, my mistress, who made offerings of bread, beer, and corn in Heliopolis. Remember bread, beer, and corn, how I said that in Virgo? Right? Those who are in Heliopolis bow their heads to me, for I am the Lord, I am their bull. The bread, beer, and corn is all Virgo when you harvest. The bull is Taurus. Heliopolis is the city of light. In Egypt, it was called On. That was what the city was called, in Heliopolis, in Egypt. That's where people went to get enlightened. And to this day, to become enlightened, or to become full of light, you have to turn the lights on. The Book of Enoch. Let me show you why it's not in the Bible, guys. You know what the Catholic Church already said about the Roman Catholic Catechism 2116, right? Well, look at the Book of Enoch. Look how chapter 6 opens up. 8. Samjaza taught enchantments. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Borakijal taught astrology. Kokabel, the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Sariel, the course of the moon. And in those days shall mountains leap like rams, Aries, and the hills shall also skip like lambs, Aries, satisfied with the milk, the Milky Way galaxy whose centers in Sagittarius. The Gospel of Q. So these are all the Gnostic Gospels right now we're going through. Give us our daily bread today. Which of you would give your child a stone if they ask for bread, or would you give them a snake if they asked for fish? The bread is Virgo. The snake is serpents, which is part of Ophiuchus, and the fish is Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Here's another example. Everyone who divorces his wife and remarries is unfaithful to her, and whoever marries someone who's divorced is unfaithful too. Which of you, if you had 100 sheep and lost one of them, wouldn't leave the 99 in the hills and go after the one that got lost? Divorce marriage court is law. That's all Libra. The sheep is Aries. Guess what? Those are opposing signs. The secret gospel of John. Sophia saw what her desire produced. It's changed into the form of a dragon with the lion's head. So the lion is Leo, and the dragon, part of it is an Aquarius. Those are opposing signs. The Gospel of Thomas. Happy is the lion that a man will eat. The lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, for that lion will become a man. They're talking about ingesting an animal and their components will become part of you, or you part of them. However, in astrology, the lion is the sign Leo. The sign of the man is Aquarius. They are opposing signs in the zodiac. That's how you get the story of Daniel and the lion's den. Daniel is Aquarius, the man, and the lion is Leo. Man is like a skilled angler who casts his net up and draws it up full of fish. They're talking about the man, Aquarius, and the sign of the fish, Pisces. So let me show you guys how this works. If I wanted to make a merman or talk about going fishing, you just connect Aquarius and Pisces, the man and the fish. If you want to talk about a mermaid, that's Pisces and the opposing sign Virgo. If you want to talk about lion taming, that's Aquarius, the man, and Leo, the lion. If you want to talk about jousting, that's Gemini, the two brothers or the two people, and Sagittarius, the bow and the arrow. If you want to talk about running of the bulls or bullfighting, that's Taurus and Aquarius. I mean, this is just a few examples, guys, but this is basically how much of the things that we're like, how did bull running start? Or, this is interesting. This is what they basically do. You can take endless words that are part of these 12 zodiac signs, and you can make up different things about them. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Mary questioned her master, at the end of an eon will all matter be destroyed. Each zodiac sign is considered a house. So the house of Aquarius, the house of Pisces. Each sign is also called an eon. The Gospel of Philip. When he came to his disciples in splendid glory on the Mount of Olives, he wasn't small. He became great and made his disciples great so they could see him in his greatness. On that day he said in gratitude, you who have united perfect light with Holy Spirit, unite us with the angels as well. Don't scorn the Lamb. Without him it is impossible to know the King. No one may visit the King without robes of light. So the olives are in Libra. The Lamb is Aries. Those are opposing signs. The Good Samaritan gave wine and oil to the weak man. Wine and oil come from Libra. Right? The Gospel of Judas. A nearby lake of still waters quenched our thirst. The place reminded us of David's famed shepherd song. Our souls were restored. The lake of still waters is Pisces, the water. The shepherd is in Aries. Those are connecting signs. The Gospel of Emmanuel, discovered by Billy Meyer. So the next thing I'm going to read you is not astrotheology, but it's something interesting that I found that I just want to share with everyone. 1220. This earth can nourish and support 500 million people. This was found in 1963, but supposedly talks about something that's 2,000 years old, okay? But if these laws are not followed in 2,000 years, 10 times 500 million people, that's 5 billion people, will exist and the earth will not be able to support them anymore. Well, look at the Earth's population. Look when they had 500 million people. Well, look when they had 5 billion people in it. Where have we heard the 500 million before? This gospel was discovered in 1963. Maybe something that was created in the 1980s that was destroyed. Maintain humanity under 500 million people. As far as my research goes, I find it back to this. This is where the elites get their 500 million from. Truly I say to you, from now on I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard, nor eat of the bread, until I drink and eat with you again after my affliction. So the vineyard is Libra, and the bread is Virgo. Those are connecting signs. Okay, let's have some fun now, guys. Here's the Quran. Those who do not know say, why has not the Lord turned the word to us, and why will he not show us a sign from heaven? Similar words were spoken by those that came before them, their hearts alike. We interpret the signs for those who are committed to their faith. Interesting choice of words, right? And how beautiful all people see the love of earthly passions. Here are women and sons. There are mountains of silver and gold, and marked horses and herds of cattle in a plowed field. The women are Virgo, the sign of the woman. The sons are the boys in Gemini. Horses are Sagittarius, and cattle is Taurus. A plowed field is Taurus as well. Taurus and Gemini are connecting signs, and Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Verily, in the creation of earth and sky, and in the change of night to day, here are the hidden signs for those who have intelligence. And among them are those who only pretendingly listen to you. We put a cover on their hearts so they would not understand it. Then we cover their ears with deafness. And even if they see all the signs, they will not believe them. He is the one who brings down water to you from the sky. Remember God, remember Shemin, right? Sacred fluid. And with it we give plants of all kinds to grow, and with it we grow shoots of cereals, from them we grew grains. Sitting in an ear dense side by side, from the date palm, its ovaries, bunches of fruit hanging low, gardens of vines, olives, pomegranates, in which many ways are so similar yet so different from each other. When fruits appear on them, rejoice in how they poured and ripened. Truly, in this are hidden signs for those who believe in God. Well, what are the signs? The grains are planted in Taurus, then April showers bring May flowers, water from the sky. The grains grow, you reap in Virgo, gardens of vines and olives. Grapes and olives are pressed in Libra. These are the hidden signs, guys. And whoever wants to own a beautiful garden of date palms and vines, which is washed by abundant streams, where for his pleasure all kinds of fruit, while old age befalls him. And the children are weak, so that a fiery whirlwind falls on the garden and swallows it to ashes. So the Lord explains his signs to you so you can understand. I mean, guys, this is the Quran. This is what is taking over Europe right now. This is what people are murdering people over, just killing them if they don't believe this literally. Well, the vines are vineyards in Libra, and the streams are the streams in the water sign Pisces and Aquarius. Now, let me just mention one more thing to you. The 72 virgins, right, that all the martyrs die for? There's a star that borders Virgo called 70 Virginis. That's its name, 70 Virginis. That's 70. There's one virgin in Virgo, that's 71, plus the virgin that you marry on Earth. Those are your 72 virgins, guys. It's all astrology. Now, I'll also be told from Muslims that you're allowed to marry multiple women, or you're allowed to have, multiple women, and that's true. You're allowed to have up to 4 wives, but the thing is, you have to be able to afford them all, and not a lot of people can do that. So these are the 72. The Book of Mormon. Nevertheless I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to the earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. Yea, and I also thought that they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. Both wine and lawly things take place in Libra. And after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again. Or in fine, after the Gentiles had received the fullness of the gospel, the natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel, should be grafted in, or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, their Lord, their Redeemer. Therefore remember, O man, for all thy doings thou shalt be brought into judgment. Well, the olives take place in Libra, and the judgment takes place in Libra. And I looked and beheld the Lamb of God, that he was taken by the people. Yeah, the Son of the everlasting God was judge of the world, and I saw and bear record. The Lamb of God is Aries, and the Son of God is the man, sign Aquarius. The judging takes place in Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. So let's do this one more time, guys. My point, once again, is not that these ancient people told literal stories. and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. Now, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So do you understand the great implication at this stage of the game now? What is more likely? That all the Western ancient holy texts that we take for granted are living, breathing books that Revelation keeps coming true? Or that the ancient elites have encoded all our texts this way, and they're tailoring events that people can interpret as coming true? So at its simplest, the sun is good, the Christ, the plasma. The night is bad, set, evil, hence the sun set. Throughout the year, the sun goes through 12 entities. Each one of them have a story. The stories about them make up the encoded Farmer's Almanac that is the Bible. And each story in the Bible is a different way of telling the same story. Everyone used to be an English major in the ancient times. The greatest story ever told is the only story ever told. It's just told in different ways over the ages. The problem with the world can be boiled down to the people taking these stories literally. The powers that be have no intention of correcting you. Infighting keeps your eyes off this fact. And now this, guys, let me show you this. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's also a gematria, etymology, numerology, symbology, and a psychedelic book if you've ever read John Allegro's Mushroom and the Cross. The 12 holy sciences, like the 12 zodiacs, they are not literal, historical, reality, or original. Now, I just want to make mention to you guys that I only went over one of these holy sciences that are made in the Bible. The Bible is probably easily the most intricate. It's a spell book too. It's the most wild book ever put together. But if you read it literally, it's going to keep you in that dumbass state of mind that so many people in the world are. Now, I have a book series where I dive into this even further. It's called Into the Rabbit Hole series. My first book is Beneath the Veil. This is 1, this is 2, 3, and so on and so forth. It's a book. My 9th book is actually coming out soon. Book 1 talks about MK Ultra. Book 2, The Secrets of the Pyramids. Book 3, The Knights Templar versus the Rosicrucians. Book 4, The Jab, which I wrote in 2017 and predicted what happened. Book 5, Where the Library of Alexandria is Now. Book 6 exposes the Bohemian Grove and the Pindar. Book 7, Transmuting the Stone at the Kaaba into Gold and Destroying the World's Market. Book 8, Tesla's Earthquake Machine in Greenland. And the topics that I discuss on top of astrotheology are gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, DNA encoding, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, Tesla tech, shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracy that not many people know about, corruption, and secret societies. This is the website I want you all to go to, debunkmywork.com. Just go check my website out. It has all my books. It has all my work. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Micah Dank, and X or Twitter at Real Mr. Dank. This right here is my website. I have a Rumble too, but if you go to my website, Debunk My Work, that's where this is. And yeah, so got a bunch of people here. So thank you for watching this. And if you want to reach out to me separately, if you go to my website, there's a way that you can email me at the bottom if you don't want to reach out to me through social media. So I thank you guys for being here.